Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. So today, we are doing the air signs, which is going to be Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hi Malik, thank you for coming. I keep them in this Gudetama pouch. And this is the Eternal Tarot. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Sorry about that. Oh, my servo's been acting up. There we go. I really enjoy using this particular deck. It has a lot of Egyptian symbols in it, so I get to use that in the reading. There we go. I'm not sure why my servo is kind of stuck today. Over on the member side of the channel, I'm going to be using this chunk of obsidian for the scrying this week. Hold on. Sorry to shake the camera, but let's see if I can get it to. My focus is kind of messed up today. Hold on. Let me see if I can get it to. There we go. And then I will be doing bibliomancy today. And I will be using for that the art of war. And if this is going to be going on for the entire video, I don't know what I'm going to do about that. There we go. The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which was very good for the bibliomancy the past 2 days. Been getting some really good messages through that. So I'm excited to be using it again today for the air signs. So to start out, I'm just going to be clearing the space using my singing bowl. And I'm going to gently play it and just allow the waves of sound to wash over your body and imagine yourself enveloped in the divine white light of Source. hold on just a minute. I'm gonna turn my camera off and turn it back on. Because I'm not sure why it's doing this. Okay, let's see if that fixed it. Yeah, it looks like I can focus now. Okay. Everything should be fine now. Sorry about that. This has been kind of a buggy week. So I'm going to start with the air sign of Gemini. I'm going to go ahead and start shuffling the cards. So Gemini, if you would, just allow any concerns that you have to float up to the forefront of your thoughts. And wait there patiently while I shuffle the cards. If these things are stressful for you, just gently breathe in and inhale the divine white light of Source, and then exhale and release everything back to Source to be transmuted that is troubling you. All right. So, Gemini, the first card that I have for you today going to be looking at your past. And the card we have there is Pilgrimage. Now, this card is a bit like the Six of Swords in the Minor Arcana from other tarot decks. We do have lunar correspondence here. The new moon is going to be on Friday. So if you're embarking on a new journey beginning on Friday, this would be the card for that. We have someone dressed kind of like a priest, a bit like a priest. They're wearing the ceremonial leopard skin, but they're also wearing this headdress. So typically the priests had a shaved head and would not be seen necessarily wearing a headdress. So this might be a pharaoh or some other nobility who would have the role of priesthood, but would not be strictly in that lifestyle. Oh, let me write down your timestamp. Sorry. Let's see, I think it's probably at this. Okay. So, again, that could be relocation. That could be planning a trip and then taking the trip later, because this card is upright and it is in the past. So, not strictly yet taking that trip. Here in the current situation, this card has come out in a lot of the readings that I've done this week, and it is the learning card. So we have here a student in the lap of their teacher. There could also be a parental relationship, parent-child relationship between these two. And we see down at the bottom the cycles of the moon. So the cyclical passing of generational information, right? We do have, that might be Anubis, might be one of the 4 sons of Horus up there at the top. So this could be you learning. It could be you passing on that information as well. And here we have, crossing that card, innovation. So up here at the top, we have Khnum, who was one of the creator gods and was said to have thrown the world on his potter's wheel. We have a person walking through the doorway, and they are holding the Ankh amulet of life, and a was scepter of power. This again would be a noble person. They are wearing a diadem. They have their uraeus upon their brow. If you can see closely enough, let me see if I can focus closely on that it is a cobra. So that is what they are referring to when they're talking about his uraeus is on his brow. Especially like in the cannibal hymn. I think it says variations of that a couple of times, right? So Uraeus, Wajet, or Renenutet were all cobra goddesses who were protective goddesses. This is going to be Neptunian energy, showing us that anything is possible through divine power. And this could be an academic setting. It could be a research setting in which you are learning, Gemini, and then putting that knowledge to work in the form of innovation. And this might have been like a relocation for that purpose, or you might be traveling to a site to do these things there. It could be work. It could also be it could also be a different kind of project. It could apply to sciences, but it could apply to the arts as well. And researching different techniques and then putting them into your work. So there are a few different ways that that could come into being. It could also be about passive income and ways of developing passive income in your life. So now we're going to look at the Imam-Silai, which is the cusp of the 3rd and 4th houses down here. And that is, I like to pretend that I have a 12 houses wheel laid out over my Celtic cross. So down here at the bottom is the Imam-Silai, that is the origins and foundations upon which what we see up here in the midheaven, what that will be built upon. And down in the Imam-Silai, we have resurrection, and this card is showing up in the reverse. So this would be like the judgment card
in a standard tarot deck. This is Mars in Capricorn energy. So very much like what we were looking at with the business innovation, this would be action in one's professional spheres. So where we see the resurrection card here, we've got the Ba overhead. We have the deceased down here, the Osiris, and this column representing that the Ba is ascending above the physical form. The Ba was able to come and go as it pleased from the body. And in fact, in some tombs, they would build like little tiny house structures, almost like an apartment, where the Ba could stay and rest and visit the body after death. So this is showing up reversed. There is a potential for this action here, this movement, but it might be something that you feel has stalled out or that you're waiting upon, Gemini. So you've put in some of this work. You might have relocated to a different place, and now you're waiting for this renewal. You're waiting to be judged on the basis of this work, possibly, and waiting for this action to take place. Here, from your perspective, we have the Sun card in the reverse. Now, it's always good to have the Sun card in your reading, upright, reversed. It doesn't matter. So this would be Pluto in Sagittarius energy. And this card is called in this deck Inspiration, that we have the divine inspiration of solar energy, the solar divine spirit, inspiring the life of these two figures here on the card and their union possibly together. So this card being in the reverse in your current situation, Gemini, this would be an opposite energy to you as well, with Sagittarius there, an oppositional energy. This is like everything's almost perfect. It's almost all set up for you here, but there might be one or two things that still need to fall into place. So very much a similar vibe with these two things going on here. From an outside perspective, we have the Revelation card showing up reversed. This would be the boy Horus, Harpocrates. He's holding the symbol of life. We have Thoth up here at the top of the card. So ideas, very much your energy, Gemini. And this is a Mercury correspondent card. So the child Harpocrates, of course, went through many trials in his life. He had lost his father. He was under constant attack by his uncle. And his mother was always trying to protect him from those attacks. We have these two pillars here showing polarity of extremes, and he is walking between them. So finding that happy medium, finding the place where you belong, where you exist. And this card showing up in the reverse in your reading, I think goes along with these in that you might very soon find your place within this situation. The potential is there for that, but it hasn't quite come into focus yet. So up here, in the future. We have a card showing up in the upright, which is prescription. And this is a card of force. Now, this is a Saturnian card, so protection, establishment. It's a very slow-moving energy. But it could be you coming into your own power. This would be somebody who has employees under them, holding the symbol of the Ankh for life. So a lot of these figures, right? We have a lot of figures here in your reading, Gemini, who have that symbol of life. It's here in the learning card. It's here in the innovation card. It's here in the sun card. These two figures are sharing that one Ankh, right? It's here in the revelation card with the boy Horus. He has a lot of growing up to do. So that might be you at this time, Gemini, or the way that you're perceived by others, that you still have a bit of growing to do before you'll be quite ready for this moment. But in the future, that could well be coming in for you with this proscription card. These are the symbols of authority too, the crook and the flail, the double crown here on his head. So where we had this person, this is a symbol of power also. We have that diadem there. Now that diadem is integrated into that double crown of authority. So that innovation leading to your ability to lead, to have power. And this would be the kind of power. Hi, countries of the world. Thank you for coming. It's good to see you. The kind of power where you have people who are answering to you. So let's look up here in the hopes and fears. What we have up there, this card is actually very similar to the Sun card. So we have two similar figures. This figure is very similarly dressed. On this card, we have two Ankhs. So they're bringing their two Ankhs together. On this card, we have the union of that life. On this card, we also have, this is the Tiet knot. It was a symbol of Isis. It was a protection for women. And this card of alliance, this is wanting to be able to have profitable business relationships, profitable romantic relationships with others, where both of you are on pretty even footing and you are both bringing your best out of each other. And this would be Venus energy. So this card might be showing up in the reverse because sometimes when you move to a different place, it is difficult to draw community to you, or you might feel like you've left your community behind. So having that feeling that that you might have left some people behind, you can still reach out to them. You can still stay in touch with them. So I wouldn't worry too much about this. I don't know if a lot of these successes are going to be contingent upon that energy, but it could be that what you're looking for in your life right now is a partner with whom you are on equal footing, whether that is in your business life or in romantic situations. this does make it a little bit difficult.
Yeah, I took lots of medicine though. But thank you for coming, Betsy. And yeah, I've been wearing a mask, taking lots of medicine, and hopefully everything will stop blooming here soon. Otherwise, I'll just have to go out to the desert.
So up here in the midheaven, this is in...
Oh, thank you, Betsy. Sending love back to you as well.
This is going to be the result of this here with resurrection in the Imam Silai. And remember, this was like we were kind of waiting for this new start in business, in practical matters. And now you're going to be taking matters into your own hands. So this is a much more active card for that. This is the Magician card. In this deck, it is Sun in Leo energy. And we have the Magician holding this wand on the table. There's the sword, the chalice, and of course the pentacle, showing the 4 suits of the minor arcana, although they are not here in this deck. This looks like a bird which is associated with the eternity of the horizon. It is a hieroglyphic word, akyu.
And I apologize, my allergies affect my pronunciation of certain words, so.
But this magician would have been somebody of great power. They have these eyes up above their head. And this would be potential for you in the future, Gemini. That because this isn't coming through as quickly as one might like, that you are going to have the ability to manifest things much more directly. And so this one is more like a preordained energy. This one is more about your command and control in situations. And that is minor arcana. So in order to step into this power of the magician, now recognize too that the magician here is a solitary figure. So one thing that might end up holding you back from that destiny.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Betsy. Thank you for your generous donation.
If you're very focused on being able to have these close personal relationships, now that's not necessarily bad, but it might interfere with this, and I'll tell you why. The final outcome card that you have for today is this rivalry card. Now, this is Jupiter energy, so we do see expansion with this. And we see these 2 figures playing this board game, which might be Senate. We have another entity associated with the eternity of the horizon here. This is Aker, who is a double-headed lion facing in both directions. So rivalry, this would be like 5 of Wands energy, where these 2 people are training off of each other to become much better players. And you can only sometimes become slightly better than your rival because you have to have someone else there off of which to train your skill and off of which to gauge your skill in these competitive type situations. So this card also is showing up in the reverse. So I think this is what you want. You want alliance. But this is probably what you are going to have available which is rivalry. Now, this is a form of alliance too, right? But I feel like what you're going into is a situation where there is a clear division between the manager and the employee. And therefore, there has to be somebody in charge. It would be great if we could have more situations where people were all able to kind of be in charge of themselves. But I think, Gemini, in this particular setting, you're going to be the one in charge. And therefore, you're more likely to have situations where you're able to train yourself up with rivalry than you are to have the potential for these relationships of equal footing. And that is going to be the key to your power and your manifestation in this situation. So, Gemini, that is going to conclude the tarot reading for you today. Let me read for you from the Art of War. Oh, let's see, that's the introduction. She got a rough idea of the art in its general bearings, but would not pursue his studies to their proper outcome, the consequence being that he was finally defeated and overthrown. He did not realize that the tricks and artifices of war are beyond verbal computation. So, what that is saying is that the entirety of philosophy is not going to replace applying these methods. So remember, we had learning and innovation coming out in the place of the significator. So it's not that your education is lacking in any way, and you certainly have the capacity for innovation. But your victory is going to come when you apply these things. And that also is going to be what causes you to become established. All right, so that is going to conclude the Gemini reading for this week. I will be going over to the members side of the channel after this video live stream is complete, and I will be doing the crystal scrying with this black obsidian. And the readings have been going a little bit long this week. I've been changing my battery before the third sign. So just to give you guys a heads up that the video feed will be temporarily cutting after the Libra reading so that I can change out the battery pack so we don't lose it right in the middle of the reading. And Libra, if you would, gently relax. You can take some deep breaths if you want. Breathe in the divine white light of Source and exhale any energies that are no longer serving their purpose in your life. They will be able to return to Source and be transmuted. And just allow anything that you'd like to focus on to rise up to the forefront of your thoughts so we can address it in the reading. All right, Libra, 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 Libra. Oh, let's see. card is getting a little dinged up on the edge. That's a shame. Oh well. All right. So let's deal out your cards, and then I'll write down your timestamp. Ah, interesting. All right. Okay. So let's see what we have here. In the past, we have the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse. In this deck, it is called Retribution. And we have Pluto in its native sign of Scorpio. So very transformative energies in this deck. We have this white Sphinx, so there's some mobility there, heading in the right direction. We have Horus the Elder, I think, here. And then Taweret, who was a protector for women in childbirth. We have two protective cobras down here. And this card is about cycles, so retribution being similar to the idea of karma. Now, this card being in the past and being in the reverse, this could be something that that has already happened, a transformation that you have kind of settled into now, that you're in that energy and you've already absorbed it. It's not something that is continuing to affect your life. Here in the place of the significator. Oh, AZD, we just started Libra. Thank you for coming. I already did the past placement card, which was the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse. But we're about to go over the significator. So in the place of the significator, we have communion in reverse. This is, as you can see here, there's a thurible down here in which incense is being fumigated, and there's a combination of these two forces. That is repeated here in the motif of the bouquet. The red and the white represented the two different crowns for Upper and Lower Egypt. And so the alchemy of those two combining would have been the entirety of Egypt in its full power. So this card in the reverse, this could be a marriage that we see here. And where the card is reversed, this is Mars energy also. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for coming too. Where this card is reversed, there might be a parting of ways. Now, this wouldn't necessarily be a divorce. It could be something that is an amicable split, as a matter of fact, or that you had been working with somebody in a partnership, possibly, like in a business partnership or in a music ensemble or something like that. And you are just simply parting ways at this time. And the reason for that being this high priestess energy, where we have the moon in the sign of Cancer, its native sign. We have these two pillars showing the polarity of that situation. And down here, of course, they are reversed. This Jed pillar, was associated with the backbone of Osiris. It had to do with fertility and the cyclical nature of fertility of crops. The high priestess has a lot of secrets. Now she is holding the Ankh almost in a very defensive stance. She's holding it up like this, kind of in front of her face. She has this reading material in her lap that is full of secrets. She also is wearing the double crown. So there's that alchemy there. And of course, the double crown has upon it the Uraeus of protection. And above, she has the lunar symbol, which was also associated with Hathor. In this case, that circle would be the moon, but sometimes that circle was the sun. So I think when it was the moon, it might even be more closely associated with Aset, who was a great magician and high priestess. This is a much more solitary energy because the high priestess is keeping secrets. The high priestess has a direct conduit to the higher power and to source, and is not, while she occasionally passes those messages along to people who request them, she is not the same kind of intermediary as we see with the high priest. And we'll get to him in a minute, okay? So it might be that you were part of a partnership and now you're having to kind of separate from that energy in order to go and do your own thing. Down here in the Imam Silai. So when I lay out my Celtic cross spread, I like to imagine that there's a 12 houses wheel laid out on top. Down at the bottom is the Imam Silai, which is the origins and foundations upon which what we see in the goal or destiny, what that will be built upon. And we have an excellent card there, which is Hope, also the Star card. And this would be Saturn in Libra energy. And that Saturn in Libra placement is very concerned with reaching a state of equanimity that is solid, based on a good foundation. So as foundations go, that's kind of the energy that we're looking at, is building a solid foundation based on equanimity and equality. Now, the Star card also has to do with hopes and dreams coming true. Again, we have the white and the red, Upper and Lower Egypt, both of those being poured out. You could almost imagine she kind of represents Mayet here with that feather upon her head. She doesn't have wings, but pouring out this celestial blessing upon all of us, based on deserving in this case, with that Libra energy. So that might be something that is coming to fruition for you now. That by following your true path, Libra, because that is the reading that we're doing right now, right? That these blessings are being poured out for you. Some of you might have cusp energy too. So this 10, or rather this Wheel of Fortune in the past, would have been a precursor energy to these blessings then coming into your life, possibly. So from an inside perspective, from your perspective, we have biplicity. So this would be duplicity, but duplicity has implications that are kind of negative, of being two-faced, where what we're looking at with biplicity is multitasking, the ability to focus on polarized things, both sides of that at once. And so, you could say like duplicity is also playing devil's advocate. We have up here, this could be Hathor, could be Aset, and this is lunar energy, so probably Aset, because Hathor was a solar goddess. She was associated with the Eye of Ra. So we might think of cows being more associated with lunar energy because of the horns and that symbolism, but that wasn't really accurate to that particular culture. And we get into that in some of the other videos as well. But this person is holding the Feather of Truth. So again, very similar to this card, where we have Mayet pouring out these liquids. It's very similar to the High Priestess. Again, we've got this lunar energy and the that horned symbolism again. So there being magic and balance here as aspects of this, and cyclical balance with the moon, right? So from your perspective, you are indeed embodying this power, but it's balanced. You're able to see both sides of the situation because you are privy to the truth of the matter. Here, from an outside perspective, this would be looking in on your situation from the outside. We have the Temperance card. And in this particular deck, this is going to be Jupiter in Cancer energy. We have this figure pouring the liquids representing the two halves, the two lands, we'll call it, between, and that would be like a representation of the life force of Egypt, which was the Nile. So then we have the Nile in the two lands, represented by those two liquids being poured back and forth. And remember, it's very similar to what we saw here with the Star card, where those liquids are being dispensed by Mayet evenly. So this being about balance also, being about the practice, the finely tuned hand that it takes to pour the liquids almost horizontally, right, between those two vessels. So that also would fit in with what we were seeing here with biplicity. So I think that your self-image and the image that those around you have of you is very balanced right now. It seems like we have a lot of cards that are working all in harmony and concert with each other. That you have a very good perspective on the situation and that it's very accurate to what is actually going on. Here in the future, we have regeneration. So again, we have the Jed column of fertility, this cyclical growth depicted by this green sheaf of wheat down here, very aligned with Osiris. So here, the pharaoh is doing his part in the Osiris mysteries and erecting the Jed pillar to show that we are getting ready for the planting season. This would be Mars energy, so action being taken. And growth, but cyclical growth. We're building on that situation. So this, even from the past, there might be things from before this. There might be things from one's ancestors that end up coming through at this time as well. And this is an upright card. So that is more like a preordained, predestined energy. Although, of course, when I do these readings, it's not a guarantee, obviously, but much more predestined than if the card is showing up reversed. So this communion card, too, if there is a weakness in this partnership, in the current situation, this is Mars energy. And this regeneration card is also Mars energy. So things might be coming back in the future from this situation. If there's a partnership that you're taking a break from right now to do your own thing, because remember, we had the High Priestess showing up there also. So in the place of hopes and fears, we have cooperation. So in fact, you do thrive in an environment of collaborative effort. And that is what you yearn for. This would be Neptunian energy. So lots of possibilities open. Neptune is like the higher frequency, the higher octave of the moon's energy. You can think of it that way. So where we had the High Priestess communing with the higher power, then with communion, we have the higher octave of that available, where we're then able to do this not in a solitary setting, but with the assistance of others. Do you see they're building this column here, which was representative of growing closer to the higher power as well. This isn't strictly an obelisk, but when you're building temples, you're building these sacred buildings. There are a lot of these columns, and they have to be very carefully measured. So here in the midheaven, remember, this is going to be the result of these hopes and dreams being poured out as blessings to you and building a solid foundation based on equanimity. We have the Hierophant, and he is showing up in the reverse. So this would be Anubis, who is present at the weighing of the heart. He's the one who levels out the scales. He tears the scales. This would be Mercury in Virgo energy, Libra. So some of you might have other Virgo energies in your chart also. And as I mentioned when we were talking about the High Priestess, the High Priest would be an intermediary between the higher power and the populace. Somebody who is able to translate sacred messages to the public at large. A religious leader. Sometimes this card represents marriage. So for some of you, if the focus of this card is on a romantic relationship, then this could represent the potential for that marriage. Now, this card is showing up in the reverse, but it's showing up in a future position, a destiny position. So the potential for this exists. And it's going to depend on how everything else plays out as to whether or not this will end up happening. And it's really going to depend on your desire for companionship a lot, I think, and how you draw people to you. Are you drawing just one person in particular? Are you kind of collecting a group around you? So that is going to determine that particular factor in this reading, Libra. And the final outcome for your reading is not amazing, but it's not terrible. It's not the worst thing that could happen. What we have is impediments, and this card is showing up right. So we know that there will be some obstacles in your way. This is a Uranus energy card, so there are practical. Uranus is 11th house things, so it can be about social groups, it can be about social media. It can also represent occult studies and the practical aspects of working in the occult. Whereas once you get into the energies of the 12th house with Pisces and with Neptune, you're looking more at the intuitive aspects of that. This would be magic by rote. And what we have here is a woman who is walking on a path, and these are not actually children. If you see, this one child has this kind of wet piece of seagrass in its hand. These are water imps. They're like a lesser demon. And so this woman is warding them off with this bundle of flowers and with this stick. So this is not just about the obstacles that are going to be in your way, Libra. This is also reminding you to keep your wards strong, because this woman will be able to pass. She has the tools that she needs to divert these two mischievous spirits. And again, with that occult knowledge, using it by rote, you could use anything, Psalms, the LBRP, anything like that. So that is going to conclude the Libra Tarot reading. And now I'm going to use the Art of War for bibliomancy, and we will see what else comes out. If in the neighborhood of your camp there should be any hilly country, ponds surrounded by aquatic grass, hollow basins filled with reeds, or woods with thick undergrowth, they must be carefully routed out and searched, for these are places where men in ambush or insidious spies are likely to be lurking. So, remember what I said about the water imps. If you have areas around your dwelling where things are a bit uncertain, make sure that you're scouting those areas, warding them regularly. This could even apply to your living space. If there's a pile of laundry that sits untouched in the corner for weeks at a time, make sure that you're clearing those things out, as it will help the flow of energy through your space be much more positive and will help you keep yourself properly protected from any interferences of a supernatural nature. Now, of course, impediments can also be mundane things, and sometimes the spiritual will manifest in a mundane way, but it will cut out a lot of those variables. Maintaining good awareness of one's surroundings. So that is going to conclude the Libra reading for this week. After I finish with the Aquarius reading, I'm going to go over to the member side of the channel and do some crystal scrying with this obsidian. And before I start with the Aquarius reading. I am quickly going to change my battery pack, but there will be a momentary disruption in video signal, and then I'll be right back, I promise. All right, and we're back. We're back. So now we will be moving on to the sign of Aquarius. And Aquarius is actually like the hieroglyphs for water, which is pronounced mu. And then the singular hieroglyph that's a wiggly line like this is N, the letter N. So the water bearer, which is an air sign, and a fixed air sign. And Aquarius, if you would, just allow anything about which you are curious at this time to float up to the forefront of your thoughts. And wait there patiently. And if there are things about these issues that you find stressful, you can just take in some deep cleansing breaths, gently, of course. Imagine the divine white light of Source filling your body entirely. And then as you exhale, just breathe out any of that tension or strain or discomfort. And I will be through shuffling the cards just shortly. All right, so turn these over. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to write down your timestamp, Aquarius. And we will begin in the past. Where we have the evolution card. This is Venus energy. This is a word here at the bottom. I don't remember how it's pronounced, but I think it has to do with the body. And here we have a priest, although they're dressed like a priest, but their head is not shorn like a priest. So typically the priest who would perform the opening of the mouth ceremony would be called a wab priest. And this would be somebody who would have their head shaved as a sign of their purity. A very religiously pure person. They were responsible for keeping the temple pure and clean. This could be a family member. And we can tell this is a high-ranking person within Egyptian society. They have that false beard on and are generally adorned in a way that would denote nobility possibly somebody like a vizier. I don't know if it would be quite a pharaoh. We have the person's ba up here, and the ba is holding in its talons a shen, which is a loop of rope that represents eternity. It's very similar to actually what this statue is holding. This would be the Mesopotamian cultures, of course. And she's holding these rod and ring type symbols, which I think probably also mean eternity. So it's a very translatable symbol. The ba would have been the soul of this person, and he's hanging out overhead here because the opening of the mouth ceremony was something that was done not just for the Osiris, the deceased, but also for statuary to consecrate it into the temple, that it might be alive. The opening of the mouth was restoring one's faculties for the afterlife. And so here we see that this figure has their arms free, right? So we've already gotten part of the way into this ceremony. And that would be evolution in this case, that in the past, you would have gone through a situation that helped you improve your faculties, whether this was becoming bionic. I'm sure some of you out there have become bionic, right? It could have been a medical procedure. It could have been getting higher education that opened up new possibilities for you. This is taking you to the next level, right? So the Osiris here is attaining a new level of existence that this person has yet to attain. And this occurring in the past for you, but being in the upright, shows that this process might still be ongoing. You might be onboarding at a new job that's going to earn you a lot more money, something like that. So Aquarius, let's look here. In the place of the significator, the current situation. And the card that we have there is avarice. So this person has more than they need by a lot. This could be honey, could be beer, it could be wine. And we have coins up here on the shelf being stored. We have this big pot down here. So this could be somewhat like, this card reminds me a lot of the Eight of Pentacles, but it could be a lot like the Eight of Cups too. One walking away because something is not enough. But in this situation, what we're focused on is the not ever feeling like it's sufficient, right? As one would see with avarice. This is a Saturnian card. So Saturn is a very slow-moving planet. So it's very established and establishing. But the growth that you see with that energy is very slow to progress. Crossing this, we have persuasion. So this would be like the strength card. And this is going to be Sun in Aries. So here we are in Aries season, Aquarius. Some of you might have a Sun in Aries and be celebrating a birthday soon. But that also is the time of year that we're in. Down here at the bottom of the card, we have Ra, the sun god, riding on the back of the abhorred one, the wicked serpent Apophis. And he has mastery over this serpent. So that's what we're seeing here. This woman, very gently, is closing the mouth of this lion, not by force, but by persuasion, having an infinite, she has that infinity symbol above her head, an infinite amount of this persuasion to use to close the lion's mouth. Now, in the context of this avarice comes from a place of lack, even when there is great abundance. So this persuasion might strictly be referring to Aries season, but the persuasion might also be the persuasion of oneself that there is enough at this time. Might have to do with that. Or the persuasion of others around you in the face of this scarcity mentality that you are worthy of what you feel like you deserve. So here in the Imam Silai, this is going to represent the origins and foundations of your goal or destiny. And it is located right beneath the significator. So what we have there is a card of offering. This is going to be lunar energy, so a cyclical energy. We have typically in Egyptian iconography, the larger figures were the more important figures in an image, and then the smaller figures were beneath them in hierarchy. But we have something very interesting here where the larger image is actually the person subjugating themselves to this ruler. So the important part of this being the offering that is made. This is interesting because here in the place of the significator, we have this card about avarice and not wanting to let go of one's physical possessions. So that could be very much like the Four of Pentacles also, holding on to things very tightly. It might be that is what makes the gesture that much more important. We do have down at the bottom this person who is looking behind. This would be a figure of a god, kind of like wrapped up like this. And they are looking behind them instead of in front of them. So very much getting the impression of like hindsight is 20/20 in this situation. That there are things that are remembered beyond the point of their deeds that are remembered long after their commission, I guess would be the best way to talk about it. From your perspective, Aquarius, we have this card of examination. So perhaps this avarice being weighed against one's offerings, and they have to be exactly the same. Exactly the same. That is the deal with the weighing of the heart. The heart can neither be lighter nor more heavy, or else you will be devoured by Amit and will not get to go on and do not collect $200. This is a Mars energy card, so action-oriented. Mars is also native to the sign of Aries. So we have a lot of fire energy in Aries coming through in your reading, Aquarius. You might feel like you are having your deeds evaluated right now. Well, on the one hand, Aquarius did this. But on the other hand, they also did this, and that was really great. So, like the lists of pros and cons being tallied up for you at this time. From an outside person's perspective, this is the card of delusion. Now in this deck, it's called Imagination. I have the Egyptius Kier deck, which is similar to this one. And in that deck, it's called Delusion. Now this would be a Neptune card. So things kind of being murky and unclear. Neptune is the higher octave of the moon's energy. We have the Set beast down here depicting self-deception. We have this dancer here, and her movements are kind of sloppy and uncoordinated, so she might be intoxicated. And we have the sistrum here showing revelry. So from the outside looking in, people might see things about you at this time, Aquarius, that are sort of disjointed, that are sort of uncoordinated. They might see you alternately as being self-deceived. But I don't think that is the case. I think you really do have a lot to offer, even though you kind of have a scarcity mentality going on right now. It's not because you don't have a lot to offer. Here in the future, we have another card in the upright. This is the last card in the deck, number 78, and it is Renaissance. So this card also is very much like what we saw with evolution in the past, right? This would be Renaissance means rebirth. This is a Venus energy card. This is a Venus energy card. So this evolution leading in the future to this rebirth. And we see the Ba carrying the Shen overhead to form that continuity and story, kind of, right? So at this point, you will have been interred in the ground and preparing for your rebirth. Up here in the... Oh, and just to clarify that is going to represent the next big thing coming in for you. It's going to be totaling out a cycle, beginning something new. Here in your hopes and fears, we have initiation, and it's showing up reversed. So initiation, if you couldn't tell, this is Taweret, who was a protector of pregnant women. We have a hieroglyph down here, which has to do with giving birth. And we have a woman standing in front of Taweret under her protection. So this can have to do with pregnancy. This is a very action-oriented card. We have Mars energy here. So action, kind of the melding of masculine and feminine, right, in that pregnancy. But this doesn't just have to be pregnancy. There are a lot of things that require parturition to develop. It can be starting in a new organization. You have to work your way up through that organization. That takes time, and it takes initiation. There are projects that you have to get them started, right? So Mars would be getting that project started. This is a very feminine card, despite the Mars energy. But of course, it doesn't have to be strictly feminine. Some of you could be trying not to get pregnant at this time. But alternately, some of you might be afraid that this isn't ever going to develop. Now, I don't think that's the case, because if you see, this card is upright and it's in the future. So it's a much more predestined energy than if it were showing up reversed. And of course, nothing I say in these readings is going to supersede the importance of your own free will. But certain things are more set up to happen than others, right? And you might be looking at it from the wrong perspective. Like here we have Mars energy, right? Mars energy and Venus energy, which is this card, can be very similar looking at them from the outside. There's a lot of passion, possibly a lot of action going on, right? But Mars being the more masculine of that energy and Venus being the more feminine. Now, of course, I ascribe masculine and feminine to these things. You could also think of it as Mars is active and Venus is passive, if you are like me and are not particularly drawn to gender comparisons. So this might be a more passive kind of a transformation. And not that you're not involved in it at all or have any agency in it, but that there are going to be aspects of it that are controlled from without, that are propelling you forward naturally and not like you have to go out and get that ball rolling yourself. Up here in the midheaven, so this is going to be what happens because of this offering. This person with their head bowed all the way to the ground, this lunar energy. We have the Justice card. And in this deck, that is Saturn in Capricorn instead of your fellow air sign Libra. But we do still have Libra depicted here in the form of the scales. Now, this, I believe, is the goddess Mut. Mayet would be the agency of truth itself. Mut would have been, she was the consort of Amun-Ra. Let me check on that, because that's a very interesting bit of iconography. She's typically more like a mother figure, and so for her to be holding that knife is very intense. So let me see if I can find out more about that. This particular booklet doesn't provide a lot of extra information about the iconography of the cards, unfortunately. So we won't worry about that aspect of it right now. We do have that air sign energy tied in for you, Aquarius, with the scales and with the knife. And the idea, Saturn in Capricorn, establishment of business. So good, solid business practices, good, solid, practical matters. This isn't as much as the weighing out of things as it is about the establishment of order. And order, of course, being Mayet. Now, I honestly, I think that this is probably Mut or perhaps Neith. But I don't think that this is Mayet, because these are two ostrich plumes similar to the headdress of Amun-Ra and not the singular plume that you would see with Mayet. This card is showing up reversed in opposition to this. So the potential is there for that solidification, that edification of a good solid foundation based on order. And order being a little bit different from balance too. That the natural order, or Mayet, was considered the greatest tenet to be upheld in Egyptian society. So it's showing up in the reverse. The potential for that is there, but it is not necessarily being built at this time. That there might be things that need to happen in order for that to be fulfilled. And the final outcome card that we have here
I'm going to give you a cliffhanger for a moment because I need to drink some water. But the final outcome card. We have testimony in the reverse. So this person is bringing a sacrificial deer or antelope. We have this all-seeing eye within the pyramid. That would be something like the Eye of Ra. We have this hand underneath, giving. So not just the giving, not just the offering of things, but why, Aquarius? Why is this what you're offering? What is the purpose behind it? What is the truth for you behind the offering? What is it that you're offering it for? The message of the offering is going to be a big part of its substance. And it is going to kind of reduce the scarcity mentality behind that giving as well, Aquarius. Remember, we have here persuasion. And of course, there's not going to be a Queen of Swords card in this deck. But I see this card as being very similar to that. And this card being in the final outcome in the reverse might be the key to this situation. This is Jupiter. It's about expansion and wealth. And this might be the key to opening up that for you. Opening up this for you. That there is some truth on your part that needs to be spoken before those things will be available. So now I'm going to go into the art of war and get one of these phrases ready for you. Something. Here we go. Sun Tzu said, "We come now to the question of encamping the army and observing signs of the enemy. Pass quickly over mountains and keep in the neighborhood of valleys." And I'm going to read a few of these because it's all about like tactical advantage, right? Camp in high places facing the sun. Do not climb heights in order to fight. After crossing a river, you should get far away from it. When an invading force crosses a river in its onward march, do not advance to meet it in midstream. It will be best to let half the army get across and then deliver your attack. So remember, Aquarius, that we were talking about how you are an air sign, but are very aligned with the water bearer. So the temptation might be to remain closely acquainted with bodies of water. But perhaps the time has come to embrace more of your air sign qualities and disregard more the emotional aspects of these things. The bodies of water representing our feelings on it. And especially where we have, so we're not entirely certain what is in these vessels, but it looks like they probably contain liquid. And we do have a large piece of pottery here at the bottom, which is probably containing liquid. Getting too caught up in your feelings about these things is going to be what holds you back in the long term. So that is going to conclude my Aquarius reading for this week. I will be going over to the members side of the crystal scrying with this big piece of black obsidian. Obsidian. If you are interested, you are cordially invited to join us. But of course, your presence is appreciated here on the channel in whatever form it takes. I want to thank all of you who came out today, and a big thanks to my friend Betsy who donated. Thank you. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you again.